pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, you may have a seat.
All right, let me get started.
All right, first question I have is the notice on the front door. When was that put on the front door, the notice of the meeting?
Denise, when was the notice on the front door placed on the front door for the meeting?
What's today?
Thursday.
I'd have to look, but it was the day that I told her I would have it done.
Whatever day she
That
said
very
she
day.
would have to do it.
Which would, well, I asked for it to be posted in the paper too, so.
It was sent to the paper that evening.
She said it was sent to the paper that evening.
Okay, has anybody got a copy of the paper? Because I didn't see it in the paper.
No.
I've got a copy of the paper, but I didn't see it in there either.
I went through the paper
Yeah.
myself just to see.
Yeah.
What
Well,
date, what date was it in the paper?
Let me find the date that I sent the email and got the read receipt.
I know Lance got the email, he forwarded it to me. I don't know when it went in the paper. If it,
He just sent you an email. He didn't send you a copy of what was going in the
I
paper.
think it was a copy of what it was. As for going in the paper, it's something new now, they don't always put things in the paper. It's a corporate decision.
I'm sorry, can that be repeated?
Keith Rhodes said that his boss sent him the notice that apparently you sent them, and that now their corporate decision is they don't necessarily post everything in the newspaper.
Okay, it was sent on the 2nd.
So it's sent on the 2nd. And you have a read receipt for that as well, correct?
Sure do.
Okay.
I've got the newspaper for the 8th, and I did not see it in there anywhere.
Yeah.
And this has to be posted 10 days before the meeting.
Well, the additional appropriation has to be in the.
The
window.
additional appropriation
Yeah, I'm
does.
just speaking of the meeting, the general meeting. And the general meeting has to be posted 2 days before the meeting, prior to the meeting.
Well, how does this meet the legal requirements if you guys don't always post it?
I don't know, I'm just a reporter.
I know, I just.
I don't, I just go out.
I am, so.
Well, he
What's-
probably,
Well, it's not his doing, and I understand.
Yeah,
Normally, they will take, for an additional appropriations or a budget hearing, you actually put out a different type of legal notice.
public
Right.
notice.
Right.
Yeah,
And that's not what I'm speaking of right now. We're gonna get to that in just a minute.
okay,
What I'm speaking to is a 2-day notice for meeting for other items. that be
Okay.
added to the agenda.
all right.
And that's what I'm speaking of at
when,
this
yeah,
point.
when was that on the door?
Yeah, so if it was on the door Wednesday and this is Thursday, that's still not.
Wednesday?
Yeah, I'm saying, if it was on the door Wednesday, and this is Thursday, that's not adequate.
No,
Now, when it comes to this, we'll talk about the additional appropriations. According to the state statutes, the additional appropriation has to be put into the legal notices 10 days prior to the meeting, and it has to stipulate where the funds are going to, the amount, and where they're coming from, so that the public has a chance to be aware of what's going on in their township. So, the question is, did the additional appropriation get posted in the paper as well?
10 days before this meeting.
Did the additional appropriations get put in the newspaper 10 days before this meeting?
No. Because there was also a delay on discussion of confusion before I printed or typed those up.
There was a delay on the additional appropriations or for the additional agenda?
Both. So you wanted on the additional agenda, the EMS contract money. And that was something that was also in the additional appropriations.
Okay, well, regardless of whether there was some confusion or not, it still has to be posted 10 days ahead by state statute, regardless. So it could have been posted that way, and then there wouldn't have been any discussion, because quite frankly, I didn't, you and I talked about the additional appropriations personally, but I never saw the additional appropriations in black and white that I could hold on to until yesterday. And I've always requested that the board sees anything that we're gonna vote on 7 to 10 days in advance, to give them time to digest it and see what we're looking at. I think that's fair, don't you?
Yeah, we brought that up at several meetings.
So at this point, I'll be honest with you, at this point, there's no way the board can even vote on this at this point. There has to be 10 days. And as you're aware, we're in the middle of a review right now. And the review goes for the last 4 years, but it also goes up to current date. And if she looks at the minutes from this meeting and sees that we voted on something that we legally couldn't vote on, somebody's gonna have to answer some questions. And I'm not prepared to put myself in that position, quite frankly. So, what needs to be done, somebody needs to get that additional appropriation information to the paper. It needs to be published before we can move on it. Not that we don't want to move on it, but we need to do it right. We need to do it the way it's supposed to be done.
Okay. There is a public notice section. Excuse me. There's a public notice section in the paper
Yes.
that a lot of places send it in and it gets published there. And that, from what I understand, and I'm not an attorney, but that supposedly meets.
It does not.
It doesn't, it needs to go to legal notices because it has to.
That's what I mean, the legal.
Okay, well, you were just saying public notice. There's a
Yeah, I'm
difference.
calling it public notice, legal notice, you
Legal
know,
notice. Yeah.
and that's where it is. And
Exactly.
I don't know, I don't handle it, I don't even know where it goes, how it gets there anymore.
So, having said that, we can't take a vote tonight, guys. It's not that we have anything against you or anything, we just legally can't do it. That's the bottom line. Now,
Can we discuss it,
can we discuss it?
what they wanted to do?
If we-
Then we'll be ready
Yeah,
to start
we can
voting.
discuss it. We can discuss it. We can't vote it.
Well, was that notice put on the door at least 2 days before this meeting?
If it was Wednesday, then no, because today is the 9th.
Then
Yesterday
really
was
you
the
can't.
8th, and it has to be 2 days prior to, not 2 days including.
Can't really have a meeting then.
So did she say what, she doesn't remember what day she put it on there, is that what she said?
That's what I gathered.
Denise, do you remember what date you put the notice on the door?
Hold on 1 second here, because it'll be the same day. I told Larry that as long as everyone agreed, I'd get it posted. So let me find that email real quick.
That email also said it needed to be in the paper.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
He said that, he said that his email to you also stipulated it needed to be put in the paper.
Right, which it went to the page, so it had to be the 2nd.
So it got to the
Okay.
paper, but the paper
I
didn't,
did everything that night.
but posting it on the door, so the paper didn't do anything, so that doesn't count. I mean, that's not our fault, the paper didn't do anything, obviously. But if we didn't get it on the door,
She got it on the door the 2nd. She said the
She said it
9th.
was on the door the
Yeah,
second.
she said the night that she told you that everything would be done.
so it's
She
been on the
told-
door since the 2nd.
It's been on the door since the 2nd.
According to this, it was sent December 2nd.
Hang on, let me
Okay.
find the email. Let's see, so on the 1st, how can we schedule a board meeting? Amy replied on the 1st. Scott replied on the 1st. Jim replied on the 2nd. Larry replied on the 2nd. Greetings, as the meeting and specifics been posted in local paper. I will do this today, provided all have agreed to the day and time that was on the 2nd.
Yeah, so that's fine.
So the posting on the door and the notification to the paper was on the 2nd.
Okay, that's fine for the meeting, but we're still in a quagmire about the additional appropriations.
There's nothing in the paper.
So Denise Keith Rhodes said that there's a place where usually this stuff may go, and that may be public notices. And Larry's saying that it has to go under the legal notices.
It's the same.
For the additional appropriations.
He's saying that's the same, that's what he's talking about.
Yeah, it is, it's the same, public notice, legal notice, all of that's under there.
Okay. So I think Denise, moving forward, that you may just have to call the paper and make sure that they put it in there, because
Absolutely.
Keith said that, they may or may not put it in there. And
Yeah,
that's
this is
something.
the first I've heard of that, so Keith, thank you for sharing that, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, with my luck, they'll change it by the time she calls.
It still would have had to been in 10 days before, which wouldn't have qualified
Yeah, I was gonna say,
anyway.
because the 2nd was after the Wednesday the paper came out, if I remember correctly.
You're talking the Mooresville paper.
Yeah,
Yes.
the first chance it had to come out would be
Yeah,
the
because
8th.
the 2nd was a Thursday. So the first chance it would have come out in the Mooresville paper
Would have been yesterday.
The 8th, yes. So let me ask you this, Denise.
So-
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So in all actuality, we need to look at doing this 20 days in advance.
No, you can do it 10 days in advance, but right now it's gonna be 20 days.
Okay, I get you.
Because we're gonna have to get it out there and do the 10-day thing, but what I'm saying is, normally it's 10 days. It
There
has
was-
to be 10 days.
There was a discussion some time ago, and the paper of record is the Reporter, not the Mooresville Times. So it had to be in the Reporter. And usually the notices are the same for both of them.
Well,
I know.
the statute stipulates local paper, so it has to be in one or the other.
I think
Yeah.
Reporter Times is a legal notice.
And I noticed before that legal notices are in there for appropriations and so forth, like Monrovia and some of the other towns and so forth. So it is I bet you could call the county officials and they would tell you the same thing, it has to be 10 days. So, my question is this. What do we do to prevent this from happening again? Because we're not voting tonight, and that's a shame, but
Is that a Denise question?
I'm sorry?
Is that
I
a
do
Denise
have a question.
That's anybody question who might have an answer, yeah.
She has a question.
Go ahead.
So my question would be on the 2nd, if we had discussed, or it had been in the email that we were gonna have the meeting on the 9th. So, mind you, yes, there will be steps taken in the future to make sure this doesn't happen again. I guess my question would be, at that point in time, did we all know that we were not gonna make the 10-day deadline on the 2nd?
I'll address that question this way. In the past, it's always been 3 individuals that have taken care of notices and those sorts of things, and it's been the trustee, the clerk, and the fire chief. The board has never been responsible for setting up the meetings and all that sort of thing. Now, the board can call meetings, but the board has never been responsible for setting up the meetings. It's always fallen on the shoulders, trustee, clerk, and fire chief. Now, I know that Scott knows what the law is, what the statutes are. I would hope that you two know what the statutes are in the law, but if you don't, now you do. So, we gotta live with what we got, unfortunately.
My question is, on the 2nd, you obviously seem to be very well educated in the fact that it's a 10-day notice, and you agreed that the 9th was the meeting you wanted. Why didn't you at that point say, hey, we can't do the
I was
9th?
also on my way out the door to vacation, and
I'm just curious.
well, I understand what you're saying. I was on my way out the door to vacation, and quite frankly, I didn't check the date timeline and so forth, because traditionally, like I said, it's been the trustee and the fire chief and the clerk that have arranged those meetings and arranged those sorts of things. Now, if I need to do that in the future, I'll be more than happy to. But traditionally, that's the way it's always been.
Well, I guess here's the issue that I'm gonna run into. We're coming into Christmas. I have one day available, one, for the rest of the month, and that is the 20th.
And that's
So-
not sufficient, because it has, at this point, it would have to be, I went ahead and did the math. I went ahead and checked to see when Wednesday, when the paper comes out, so forth, we're looking at like the 26th.
Which is a Sunday.
That's, I'm just saying that's the first available. And I'm not meeting on Sunday, but that's.
I'm not either.
There's a certain cutoff too, I didn't, look that up today, but I do know in December, there's a certain cutoff that you cannot do different additional preparations beyond because of the fact that this has to go to the state. The state has to check our books and look at our numbers to see if we can even do an additional appropriation. And they need time to do that, and so therefore they have a cutoff. And I don't know if the cutoff has changed in the last few years, because I did notice now that after one is voted on, it can be electronically submitted to the state now, so they might have backed it up a day or two because of that. Used to be, you had to be certified mail to them, but I do know there's a cutoff, so that it wouldn't be able to be done this year.
You can check with Dan Baston. I think she's right, because Monday night's council meeting, all they had was transfers. There was no additionals because, if I remember right, Dan said the state won't accept them in December.
Oh, so maybe they backed up the date, maybe it's the whole month now.
We've done, I know we've done additional appropriations in multiple years in December in the past, including last year.
Well, I think we need to check on that date for sure. I'll call the county tomorrow myself and find out what the date is.
Last year, we did an additional appropriation in December.
I think so. November, December? I believe, and I believe it, because.
We did one in October
We typically get the
in 2020.
the Medicaid supplement money that we talked about. We typically get that later in the year. Like this year, it was supposed to be here last year, or last month, but it hasn't come yet.
Where's the minutes for that one December?
Well, there was one in October of
That
2020.
may be it.
I've got it right here,
I wasn't
but there's a,
here, so I don't know for sure, but late in the year we've done it.
well, I don't think there's a problem in November, October, but I know there's a cutoff and
There's the minutes of December, I don't see anything on
We need to find out the cutoff. Get our ducks in a row. What it boils down to.
Yeah, there was one in October.
All right. Any other discussion or questions on that?
I guess my biggest concern is what happens if this doesn't happen.
Could be struggling. For one, just to address one of the additional appropriations, the EMS contract money, we've received the first payment of that, which is half of the $48,000 contract. And raises were given last year based on that $48,000. That money was never appropriated back in December when those raises were given. So that's one part of this. I get there's a legal issue. I'm just bringing it
Well,
up.
let's ask Denise, in the firefighting fund, is there enough money to carry the firefighting through the rest of the year?
Larry wants to know, is there enough money in the fire, 111, I think, right? The 111 fund to carry us to the end of the year?
Yes.
As far as payroll, yeah,
That's what I mean.
I would say.
Just
so.
wanna make sure everybody gets paid, and if there's,
No, we have to do them all.
yeah, they're coming to Jim's house for dinner if not.
But I can tell you that at this point, the fire truck that we talked about earlier in this week that's now out of service, that will definitely be out of service for the remainder of the year. And we're in a loaner right now. Our reserve has been out of service,
About 2 months.
something like that, 2 months.
Yeah, probably
Something like
pushing
that.
3.
Pushing 3, okay.
So, you guys know I've shared the vehicle maintenance issues with you guys, so you're aware of that. And there's still invoices out on that, so.
On the EMS contract, why did the state cut us off? What was their reasoning behind,
The county, not
or the
state.
county rather? I said state, didn't I?
Yeah.
County.
They didn't provide a reason. I assume because they had a BLS truck in Green Township, and they recently made that ALS, and they're also, my understanding, and I don't know this for a fact, but my understanding is they signed another contract with Bargersville to provide service next year. They also tacked onto that EMS coverage. Now, I don't know if that's primary, if that's secondary, I don't know.
Do you know when Bargersville picks that up?
Do I know what?
When they pick it up, Bargersville?
I would imagine January 1st.
January 1st.
Yeah, I don't know.
So then there's a,
There's a 15-day
yeah,
delay here.
15 delay.
But the county truck in Green Township is ALS already. It was September, October, it went in service ALS, so.
Any other questions, comments? All right, then I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Let's get the minutes approved.
You can have a regular meeting,
have a
it just,
meeting.
you just
All right,
can't do
let's-
the additional appropriation.
Let's do that then, go ahead. You got your meeting, you got your minutes there, right?
Yeah, everybody's got a copy? You read it?
Yes, I have.
Have you read it?
I have not read for the 26th.
If I may intervene for a second, the state is asking me for those.
Let's get them approved so the state can have them then.
Jim said, let's get them approved so the state can have them.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
So the 11th, 12th, and the 26th?
Yeah, the 12th, there's an amendment on that on the financial consultant's name. I had it on there wrong. It's Ben Roger, R-O-E-G-E-R, not Ricker. I'll forward it to you.
How do you spell the last name again?
R-O-E-G-E-R. She read this one already.
Yep.
Anybody got any questions on October 12th?
No, not on this one.
Anybody have any questions?
On October 12th minutes.
Go ahead.
I'd like to move it as written, except for the one correction of the financial consultant, changed it into Ruger.
I'll second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0.
Oh, we should probably date it, huh, for this tonight.
Yeah, that's right.
okay with just the two, right? And one of them did.
Yeah.
So we got all
That's
three
Larry.
signatures on it.
He's chairman.
And then this one can go
Okay.
to Denise.
Moving on to October 26th minutes. Are there any corrections to that
Jim's
one?
on the end. Okay. Amy's pretty self-explanatory. She's the pretty one.
Corrections, I got questions.
Who, me? Always. I try to be. That number still seems crazy to me.
Which one?
The population increase.
I thought it should have been more than that.
Me too.
All right, any questions on the October 26th meeting minutes?
I'd like to move it, accept them as written.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. Minutes are approved for the 26th of the meeting, minutes of the meeting.
Are you gonna, I'm gonna give these to Denise so she can have them for all of them.
We can make sure they get in our office, or Tony can take them home to her.
I'll put them in an office.
Thank you all.
You got one copy down there now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, the next order of business is the review of $4,000 for the poor relief investigator. The current salary resolution is $8,000. We left $8,000 in the budget for it. And we believe that $4,000 is more in line with the work that is being done at this point.
Who's we?
Me, I guess I'm doing it. Any
And the-
discussion or questions?
I think the budget is what it is. It was voted on and approved, so I say leave it.
I'm just curious what you're basing that off of.
Based on the hours put into it, is any job.
How do you know how many hours she puts into it?
You know, in one of our previous meetings, she stated how many hours she puts into it,
Into the
into the poor relief, yes, because that,
poor relief?
yes, because that question came up specifically.
How many hours is that?
3 to 5 hours a week.
I think too that we
I think
hardly
I said
had,
it depends. It could vary. Could be 3 to 5 hours a week. Again, it varies.
Also based on the amount of poor relief that we've been doing in the numbers. So,
virtually, that's what I was gonna say. There's been very little to no poor relief,
and like I said, we
paid
left,
out, and so, and our township pays a lot of monies in compared to other townships with even higher populations than we have for the poor relief administration.
You mean within the budget, we have a higher allotment?
yes, so if we wanted to go back later and
You-
review it,
You
we
can,
could raise it back up. That's not an issue. That's
you
why we
can
left it in
always,
there.
yeah, you can always change the salary resolution any day of the year.
So my question is
Never
on
be
those
higher than the
townships,
budget.
are they, the administration's less, but is their money going out more? Because just, and I'm not a very educated person, but in my thought process is if we're paying this much money for a poor relief investigator and we're not paying a lot of poor relief, sounds like she's doing her job to me. If we're not paying, if we don't pay a lot of money, she doesn't do her job, and then our poor relief paid out goes up, then I feel like we just did a disservice to the township by letting that be. So
Well, you know,
that's kind of my thought process.
it's not really how it works, because when a person calls, they come in, they pick up an information packet to start with, okay? lots of time that information packet doesn't come back because, for whatever reason.
Yeah, I mean, I've only been here a few years, and I mean, I've collected a ton of them that have come back, but I mean, I guess I could have missed a few.
That's fine. I mean, all I'm saying is, if they don't come back, or if they come back and they don't qualify, then there's really nothing to, I shouldn't say nothing, there's not as much to do. How about that?
How do you find if they qualify or not?
I can look at the numbers on that finance, well, that I don't know.
Is that the poor release of the investigator that finds
No,
that out? Okay.
There's state qualifications.
Yeah,
So,
there's some of them-
there's a list of state qualifications that those applying have to meet. So the money going out, the money paid out for poor relief is not representative of the work that goes into the position, because there's a lot of phone calls. It usually starts with a phone call, and she goes through a brief screening. And let me just say, this is not a fire department issue. I'm speaking as a Madison Township taxpayer
Same.
who happens to have some inside knowledge of how this process works because I'm in the next office over. So usually starts with a phone call. That's kind of a pre-screen. Then it goes to picking up a application packet. Then it goes, when they turn that back, the reason that you said some people don't return that packet is because it requires a lot of documentation. So when they return that application packet, the investigator has to go through all that information that keeps some people from applying. She still has to go through all that. She has to, look through bank statements, and I mean, there's tons of documents that are required. And then some people don't qualify, because they've went out in the last month and bought a $3,000 TV, and that shows on their bank statement. That doesn't mean, so there's no money going out to that person. That doesn't mean the hours weren't put in investigating that person. So the number of poor relief paid out is not indicative of the work that goes into that position. It's not a number that reveals how much work that person actually does.
If I may interject as well, there's also help that I do for these people that doesn't come out of the township money. There's programs. These people are looking for help. They're looking for guidance. They're looking for someone to lean on because they don't know where else to turn. The emotional phone calls that go along with this job are heartbreaking.
You said you had a person that told you that they were considering suicide.
I had a person tell me she was going to end it all and hang up the phone. And the sad thing is, I couldn't help her. I can make suggestions. I can do the best I can to put him in the right direction, but I couldn't help her.
Well, based on the hours, I'm still not convinced that we need $1,000.
So I guess my question would be, what are you looking for that would support the hours? I mean, like I said, it could be 3 to 5. I mean, I've got one guy that, he has no means of technology. So, I've helped him on that sense. Help him merely just look at things and help him get them ready for the mail. And because unfortunately he's got to go the long road because he doesn't have the means to email or send something via technology to speed up his process. So I guess my question is, what are you looking for that would solidify the hours? And this is not something that goes on just a couple hours a night. I mean, 7 days a week I make myself available to these people.
So then what you're saying is you spend more than 3 to 5 hours a week on this? Is that what you're saying?
I could have a quiet week, I could have a heck of a week. That's
No,
what I'm saying.
I'm talking about
What are you
averages.
looking for that would help you see the hours, because in actuality, there is nobody that sees the time that I put in. Nobody. So now, on that note, and I understand that, because obviously you're not gonna sit there and watch me and hover over me. So my question to you is, and to be fair, what is it that you're looking for that would, I guess, help you better understand, if I'm sitting on the phone with somebody for a half an hour, or, there's times where I talk to people and, like I said, unfortunately I can't help them, but guess what? I just spent 20 minutes on the phone with them because I'm trying to find other means for them, because I know I can't help them. So what can I do to help you understand more of what I'm doing, or the time, or whatever it is you're looking for to justify what I'm doing?
Well, again, I'm looking at what are the average hours. I mean, when you average it out and you're saying 3 to 5, is that accurate, or is it more hours that you're putting into it?
It could, like I said, it could be 3 to 5.
I said average.
It could be 10. There's no, if you had to have an average per week, minimum 5, minimum. But I could have somebody that'll put me through 15 hours in a week. And it just depends on, what their situation is. And of course, everybody's different. And again, too, trying to help people, and it's not just a matter of, okay, I need to pay your rent, and then I'm done with you. There's also the heart of the job that goes along with, unfortunately, not so much talking people off the ledge, but hey, let's try this and let's try this, and what do you think about this, and this may be an avenue for you. So for me, and this is just me as a person as well, I'm not going to just write your rent check and fluff you off. If there's something more I can do to put you in the right direction, I'm going to do that all day long. Because people need that, especially now.
I don't think we're objecting to what you do. It's just, you talk to one person a week to do all this, or you talking to 10 people? I don't want to know who they are. I just want to know how many you talk to, how much time you spend.
I could talk to 2 people in a week. I could go 1 week and not talk to anybody, but then I could talk to 3 or 4 people in a week. There's been weeks where I've had back-to-back phone calls. It's not a flat consistency.
Well, we understand it. We're looking for average.
I
What's the
can
average?
tell you it's gotten, and I don't want to say worse in a bad way, but it's gotten busier lately. I just had some guy call me 3 times for an appointment. 3 times. I can't get there. Can we try this?
Yeah, and sometimes people don't show up, or they reschedule their appointment, so.
Sure.
Then they're coming in here at the office for appointments.
Well, our office is only open 2 hours a day.
Yeah, but access to her is 24/7.
Well, I'm referring to the appointments that were.
No, okay.
Well, if she's
Yeah.
scheduling an appointment,
Yeah.
then it would, I'm assuming it would be whenever it's available for both people involved.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm gonna make a motion to table this until we can look into it a little deeper.
Larry's gonna make a motion to table it, to look into it a little bit deeper, so there's probably gonna be more questions coming, Denise.
I'll say.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays?
Nay,
You want to table it?
I don't think it should be up for discussion.
Motion carries 2 to 1. All right, is there any old business that we need, well, good to the order, I should say.
Wait a minute, do we have to say anything on these, like it's tabled or anything until we meet time limits or anything, or we just came and look at it?
We can look at it,
Well, I
but we
mean,
can't vote on it, we can't table
We
it.
can't discuss it either. Okay.
Yes,
I had a taxpayer, call me and say, and this has been brought up before, that the, phone for the clerk still has Kelly Akela's name. Now, come on. You know, it's well over a year, it's ridiculous. And, I actually got on the phone myself, because I thought, surely not. And sure enough, it was Kelly's name still on there. Now, I just think that we need to have this stuff updated. It's been brought up before, so it's not, even though I don't think we should even have to bring it up. But it was brought up before, and it still hasn't been changed.
Okay, I'll take care of it.
Good. I'll check tomorrow.
Jim says jokingly, maybe.
I wasn't joking, I will check tomorrow.
Oh, he said he'll check tomorrow.
Can't be that hard to change a recording.
Well, I don't know if I'm gonna get there tonight to do it, but it will definitely be taken care of.
I'll do it tomorrow night then.
All right, he said tomorrow.
I don't wanna talk to Kelly.
He says when he calls, he doesn't want to talk to Kelly. That's what he says.
anybody have anything else?
Now you can do your bit.
No, now we're gonna talk about our next meeting date. We have to have a meeting in January.
Okay, we're assuming that we're gonna get some time.
Well-
What time do we need to get this done? We're required to have a meeting the 1st of January anyway. What date do we have to have that
I
first
think it's
meeting?
the first Tuesday after the first Monday.
That's what I
Which I
thought.
think is the 4th.
Yep.
4th.
Will that be adequate time for them to get the notification to take care of this?
It'd be enough time for notice, but the question is it gonna be time enough for the state to look at it?
No, it's gonna be 2022 then.
Yeah, it'll be 2022 then.
No, we have to find out if we're able to have another meeting for the additional appropriation. But this meeting has to happen regardless, the
But
one
it
in
has to
January.
happen, yes.
Yeah,
Could they be the same meeting?
no, because
Boo.
this is in January. This has to happen before January.
The appropriations?
Mm-hmm.
And the earliest you could have it then would be the 27th, if I'm not mistaken. And that would be a Monday.
But we still need to check on the legality of that and whether or not the state will even hear our
Accept it,
appropriation.
yeah.
So if they don't, though, then could the appropriations be heard at that first meeting in January?
They could.
Okay,
I mean, it won't help us this year, obviously.
obviously, no.
But
It would have to be put in the paper properly. And that's the issue we ran into, so.
Properly, the key word there.
And that's why I know that it would hurt, but there's only 3.5 weeks left in December anyway, and I know it kind of sucks, but if we can get it in the paper now, then we know for sure that the board and the trustee and the fire department are all in the clear if we handled it in January.
Denise, can you find out about the cutoff date for the additional appropriations to be submitted?
Yes, I've actually already sent an email on that.
Perfect. So hopefully we'll get an answer about that tomorrow and hopefully can get something.
But we do have to meet January 4th.
Yes.
We'll meet at 7 PM. Is that acceptable?
Yeah.
In the meantime, if we need to schedule another meeting, we'll schedule another meeting.
That works.
So,
No.
so I'm making a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, Denise, those minutes I'm going to put, with the exception, the acceptance letter or signatures on your desk.